Okay, so in this video I want to talk about groundedness, which is a huge topic for anybody that's experimenting with psychedelics or who's had a difficult trip. And I would say that for a lot of people who have struggled with difficult trips, or if you've ever met somebody or you yourself are feeling burnt out on psychedelics, what I really think that comes down to in a lot of cases is that the person has got severely ungrounded, because when we are working with psychedelics or experimenting with them, what we're doing is going to an extremely spiritual, extremely psychological, extremely consciousness focused zone, which can be very hard to manage and very hard to kind of take into yourself if you are not grounded, if you don't have that good foundation. So if you've kind of really gotten into psychedelics but maybe haven't gotten other more basic areas of your life figured out yet, it's possible that you've gotten yourself in a pickle because of simply lack of groundedness. And even if you are pretty set in your daily life in general, your routines, your foundation, working too much with psychedelics can get you a little disconnected, and feelings of extreme anxiety and worrying about I hear a lot of people concerned about depersonalization and derealization. If those things are concerns of yours, or things you're noticing, or you simply don't feel like you're that connected to your body, or you just feel disconnected from real life in general, rather than get all worried about what it is, is it derealization, is it depersonalization, all these different things, instead of getting worried about that, address the root cause, which is really just that you're ungrounded. I mean, that's all it is. And so in this video I want to talk about groundedness and what groundedness is in my perspective that has to do with psychedelics and difficult trips, and some things that you can do to get more grounded, some things that I do to get more grounded, and and I think that if you really start working with groundedness, it will really help you. I know that it certainly did for me. And just in case you're wondering, if you like an astrological framework, I'm a Capricorn with a Virgo North Node, so groundedness is kind of my thing. But yeah, that's I try to give a lot of different frameworks, because I know I have a lot of different people from different backgrounds looking at my site and looking at these videos, so I just want to kind of give a lot of different ways of understanding the things that I talk about. So, speaking of frameworks, I drew a little chart that I have on a clipboard here. So, what I want to do is start by kind of talking about groundedness versus psychedelic experiences within the context of some frameworks, so that we can get understanding of what it really is and why psychedelic trips can kind of disconnect us. So you might need to pause this and screenshot it or something so you can refer to it easier. But this is the chart that I drew, and basically what I've done is I've just kind of correlated the chakra system, which is here, and another system. Sorry, I got a text. Oh, my cousin had her baby. Okay. So the chakra system, which is a really good way to think about it, and then also Maslow's hierarchy of needs or success, which is a more psychology-based, secular-based system, which is also relevant and actually correlates pretty well. I've kind of color-coded. Chakras are pretty frequently seen as color-coded all the time. And then Maslow's, I've kind of correlated the colors that I have here. So basically, when we talk about groundedness, we're talking about the root chakra, the basis of everything. The root chakra is located at the base of your spine, or at the we'll just say at the base of your spine. We don't need to get any more specific than that, but and then so that serves as kind of the foundation. And if we look at Maslow's hierarchy, I've correlated it to physiological and safety needs. So this is anything that has to do with kind of what we think of as the primal man, like, is satisfying these needs. Like, the primal man is worrying about getting enough food to eat, enough water to drink, enough, making sure he's not going to be attacked by animals, or that he has somewhere to live and that he's not going to get sick and die. And these kinds of thoughts, because they're so difficult to satisfy, he can't move up the ladder to, let's see what's next, concerns about belonging and love. He's all focused on those basic needs at the bottom of the pyramid. And so for our lives too, like if we think about it from the chakra system, that's kind of the basis. You want to build your foundation before you start, sorry, I don't know why my nose is so itchy. Before you, I'm not on drugs, I promise, my nose is just itchy. Before you want to start and get a solid foundation before moving up to, worrying about higher order things like, the next thing up is the sacral, which has to do with sexual needs, and on Maslow's that's belonging and love. So like, for example, you probably need to figure out how to satisfy your most basic needs before you go out and try to get a girlfriend or boyfriend. If you can't even, how could you satisfy someone else or be a good partner to somebody else if you can't even take care of yourself? So kind of the idea there is starting with a foundation. And the problem is that, and that's what groundedness is having a strong foundation, being really rooted, like the root chakra says, being really within the earth where we are right now. We're here for a point. We're here on earth. We need to be okay with that. And I know it's hard for some people to be okay with the fact that we're here in the third dimension. A lot of people don't really like that. A lot of people want, especially on a more spiritual, psychedelic kind of wavelength, want to be more in the spirit realm, but that's not where we are right now. We're on this physical plane for a reason. So in life and in like schools of yoga or mystery schools or things like that, there's a progression upwards. You start with your root chakra and you work your way up. Yoga, if you want to talk about that, the point of yoga is to get up here to this crown chakra where you're really actualizing, or up here where you're really actualizing yourself and your significant, sorry, let's try to hold that still. I'm like, wow. You're really significantly in touch with the spiritual side of yourself. But where yoga starts and where it all begins is here at a very grounded place of those postures that we know of as, like, the yoga, the kind of gymnastics type yoga stuff where we're doing different stretches and everything. That is the root chakra. That's the very most fundamental basic part of yoga, which is basically to get your mind ready to start moving up this ladder so that you can ultimately reach full spiritual actualization. The problem is when we start experimenting a lot with psychedelics or pot or whatever, in order to try to get to a spiritual realm or just for fun, what it does is it takes us from wherever we're at down here, and instead of moving up in a progressive succession, it takes us and you know, puts us in a kind of really like third eye or crown experience where we're having really deep, powerful, spiritual, meaningful, you know, maybe you've experienced telepathy or you've seen things that you have that are totally way out there. And it was terrifying because you didn't have the context, you didn't have the foundation, you hadn't done the work to get there yourself. And I'm really not putting anybody down. A lot of times, you know, we kind of fall into these and we don't really realize what we're getting into, or maybe we think it's going to work out, and then you're here listening to me, the bad trip girl, because you went here directly, and it probably would have been really helpful to have all this under your belt first, because you would be ready for it. But in the reality of it is that we skipped that part, and now we're here. But what can really help is to stop hanging out in this zone, obsessing here, obsessing in the self-actualization zone, and go back to the beginning. And that sounds like it's really no fun at all, but the truth is that you'll really actually make more spiritual progress by really getting your basic foundation figured out than if you just muddle around here, because you gotta work. You can't just start reading like War and Peace. You have to read the ABC books first, or else you're gonna have no idea what you're doing and you're not gonna get that much out of it. So let me think and make sure that's all I wanted to say about that. So, how do we get more grounded? There's a lot to it, but basically, go back to basics, and that's okay. Just go back to basics. Go back to a steady routine. You know, I'm just going to list out a bunch of examples because there's a lot of different ways to approach this. One example, if you are waking up and going to sleep at all kinds of crazy hours and you have no schedule and no routine, get on a routine. I mean, start waking up, start being awake when the sun is up and being asleep when the moon is up or the sun is asleep. Align yourself with the natural rhythms of the earth. Accept those natural rhythms while you're here, and just go with it. You know, get on a routine. Get on things you do every day. Maybe you've had a routine, no routine because it's been summer, and well, I know it's summer right now, but you're on a break from school if you're in school, or you know, you just stay up really late and you don't get enough sleep. Sleep is big in groundedness. That's back to those physiological needs, those basic necessities. If you don't have enough sleep, you can't function. If you don't have enough sleep, how on earth are you going to meditate and become a spiritual person if you can't even stay awake long enough to do your job or something? If you are eating crap food, you know it, and you know that you need to stop and eat good stuff. And that's all I've got to say about that. Another one is exercise. If you don't exercise enough, you know it, and you need to start exercising. These are just basic necessities that if you do not have in order, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but there's no way you can be well grounded, if you do not have these basic things in order. If you are financially totally unstable, start working on it. It's like, I mean, little baby steps can make a lot of difference, but if you don't know, I mean, if you have no savings and you have, and you spend way too much money, I'm not here to judge anybody, I'm just telling you, start working on it. Start toning down, start really putting that foundation as a priority. What else? If you have your house as a total disaster, or your room or something, that plays into it. I mean, start picking up after yourself. I sound like somebody's mom here. I'm not trying to be somebody's mom. I'm just saying, like, it's the most basic stuff that can be really easy to get out of order. But it's I mean, like, a lot of people who talk about groundedness are like, oh, go walk outside with your bare feet and on the bare ground, and that is good for you. That will help you with groundedness, but it's not really going to do a dent in it if you're eating like Wendy's for every meal and never exercising and have no idea how you're going to pay rent next month. I mean, this is not a judgmental video, but this is a hard truth video, because if you want to get grounded, you're going to have to face those less than exciting things, whereas I know, like, being up here and like all that spiritual stuff, it's where we sometimes go, because the groundedness and the root chakra is not fun all the time. I mean, it's hard, but you have to get it in order to be, you have to get it straight in order to actually make great progress with your spirituality. Because you can't, I mean, when you're trying to meditate and reach samadhi, you can't be worried about like, you can't be like almost to samadhi and then or your goal of meditation or communing with the higher powers or peering deep into your soul, and then all that Wendy's that you ate for lunch or something suddenly causes like an episode and you have to stop. So yeah, just get real with it. I mean, just get real with it. If you're saying, well, I still feel ungrounded and I have all of those things set up, or like my foundation's pretty strong, then start looking into other things. How much time are you spending on the internet and on your phone? The phone and stuff is of this world and it's not spiritual, but as far as like, it's very much up here in this heady, like, zone of etheric, invisible, conceptual, all of that. Whereas if you want to get grounded, you need to spend more time in real reality, which is like going outside and touching the earth and playing with animals. Or, I mean, playing with animals is great for grounding, or working with plants, or anything that gets you out of your head and really in the middle of physical reality. Like, if you can exercise outside, that would be great. But even just taking a walk and like immersing yourself in the woods, or, I mean, be safe, or like just taking a walk around, wherever you live or in your neighborhood. Those things are going to be really helpful. If you can do that every day, I mean, I'll tell you for sure, the best that I've ever felt, and I'm not at this point right now, but the best that I've ever felt is when I was getting an hour outside every single day, not on my phone, maybe with somebody else or something like that, but just an hour of consistent outside time made me feel great. And maybe it was laying on a picnic blanket or just walking around at a park with my shoes off, I mean, anything like that will really help you. Another thing is working with your hands. You know, if you have a job where, like my job, I'm on the computer all day, and it's great in one way. I like what I do, but it's a lot of computer time. And if you have a job like that, or if you're in school and you're constantly doing work or studying and being conceptual, then you need to find a way to get out of that and do some work with your hands. Like if you like to paint, or like if you like to play sports, or you know, like a pottery class would be great. But there's no reason to spend money on anything for this. Like, you know, even if you're just gonna go outside and play in the dirt, or cleaning is great. Anything that gets you out of here and into the body. Grounding is all about getting into the body. And let's see what else. Yeah, so outside time, and also get out. Another component of getting out of your head is talking to other people, and going and doing things, and just engaging with the external world. Grounding is about the external world. It's not necessarily about the internal world. Like, once again, this is like external stuff, and this is the internal stuff more so. This all has down here. This has to do with your position in. All of this has to do with your position in the real world and the external world. And this little tip, once you get all of this other stuff figured out, this tip is about the spiritual world and the inner world. So I'm not saying that it's not good to be internal and be aware of what's going on within you, but it's not all there is to life. I mean, there's a reason for the society we're living in, or even if you don't want to view it that way, you're in the society. There's not really much you can do about it, so you need to not avoid it. You need to, and if you are avoiding it, you need to realize that is like an area that you need to work on, because it's probably holding you back and it's probably causing you trouble. So let's see. So yeah, there's a lot of resources out there that you can explore as far as groundedness, but really try to use your own head and heart and your intuition about what will help you get grounded. And this is, this video has been very Capricorn, or just very matter of fact, but it's about confronting those things that aren't really that fun. Like if you're in a go nowhere job and you hate it, stop ignoring that and just realize, you don't have to change it all overnight, but you got to realize and you got to own up to the fact that you're not happy, and that maybe you're concerned about whether you'll even be able to keep your job long term, or you're concerned about what you're going to do in the long run, like if you're in college or in high school or something. It's really hard to be fully grounded when you don't even know where you're going to work once you graduate, or what you're even going to do. But it's hard because there's like that financial aspect comes from your parents, and there's not necessarily a lot you can do with it. But you can do things that are going to set yourself up for a grounded future, and you can do all those other components of groundedness now. You can work on saving money now. You can get a little job now. And, if you are in school, how are your grades? How's your attendance? Like, these are not the fun things, but they are the real reality that, how's your chances of getting into college? Like, how's all of that? Because, if you have shitty grades and you never go to school, experimenting with LSD is probably not really what you should be focusing on right now. You should really be focusing on getting yourself together so that you have a foundation to work from. And I know none of this is popular, and this is not stuff people really want to hear, but it's the truth. So yeah, groundedness. Sorry for a bummy video. I'm really not sorry, because I know how good it is to be grounded. I've been ungrounded, and I know how much better I feel when I'm grounded. Like I said, I know how much better I feel when I exercise every day, and when I go outside every day, and when I eat right, and when I manage my finances well. I've seen both sides of it, and it's worth the boring routine and the self-restraint that comes with prioritizing groundedness, but it's worth it. And if you can get a lot of that stuff figured out, your anxiety, your derealization and all that kind of stuff is gonna go down. It's gonna get better. Gosh, I really don't know what's up with my nose. But yeah, groundedness. So something that, and this is the last thing I'll say, but something that I'm really big on is when you have a symptom such as derealization or depersonalization or whatever you want to call those things, or anxiety is a symptom. Depersonalization is a symptom. It's not a root cause. And what I'm really big on is looking for the root cause, dealing with the root cause, and then whatever the symptoms are going to go away. You know, if a person has like a heart, like, you know, blocked arteries or something, and they're having chest pain, and they go to the hospital, the doctor's not giving them morphine to get rid of the chest pain, or Advil or whatever. Morphine's pretty extreme, but the doctor's not giving them pain meds. The doctor's giving them heart surgery, you know. So address the root cause. Stop worrying about depersonalization and start worrying about what's underlying that and what's generating that feeling, and then address it, and the feeling's gonna go away. And that works with anything, not just regarding groundedness. That works with anything in your life at all, especially anxiety. Anxiety is not the cause, it's the symptom. You gotta find what's causing the anxiety. So, enough for this very stern Capricorn video, but I hope it helped you, and I hope it gave you some more ideas about groundedness, and, you know, maybe it was a good wake-up call if some of the things that I talked about, you know, that you're lacking in. I certainly have. We've all been there, but you gotta be an adult for yourself and make changes. So, yeah, good luck with everything.